My name's Travis McGilvary. I'm a Senior Director of Workforce Relations with Better Together, which is a nonprofit organization that has a why to keep kids out of foster care. Why don't we partner with churches around the state of Florida and communities of need to host life-changing, very unique job fairs? And it was a way that God was able for me to fulfill and complete some of the things that I started at the Y, but I wasn't able to finish.
What does failure is knowledge mean to you?
I think you learn more from failure than you do success.
Thank you again, Travis, for coming on to the Faith Knowledge Podcast. I just got one question for you.
Yeah.
Why Better Together?
Whew. Man, where to start on that? Terrell, thank you so much for this opportunity to be on this podcast, and what you're doing is amazing. The impact and sharing people's messages and their vision and their why they do what they do. It's powerful, man. So thank you for answering God's call in that. My name's Travis McGilvary. I'm a Senior Director of Workforce Relations with Better Together, which is a nonprofit organization that has a why to keep kids out of foster care. Everything that we do revolves around that. We started 10 years ago. Last year, we celebrated our 10-year anniversary, where Megan Rose, our CEO, just kind of started and speaking to communities and churches about the foster care crisis here in Florida to secure volunteers, whether that's to be a mentor or a job coach, or in those temporary situations where a kid might need a host family, to find volunteers that can get vetted, go through the background, and step in those temporary situations to take these kids in. So that way we can provide resources and support to the parents and be able to reunify that family. Since 2015, we've helped over 9,000 families with a 96% success rate, meaning if they go through our program, they never have to go into foster care, which is very powerful. But the 4% kind of is the percentage that keeps you up at night, right? And what we decided to do is kind of take a step back and say, well, in order to truly tackle the root cause, like the crisis of foster care, why are kids going in? You got to find what that root cause is. You got to ask the question, why are kids going into the system? And we found out that 75% of the reason why kids are going in, it's because financially the parents just cannot support the kids. They love the kids, they want to have the kids and have them in their family, but they just can't support them. So what we did as an organization is kind of took a step back and said, well, if we're truly going to tackle that root cause and tackle this foster care crisis, why don't we partner with churches around the state of Florida and communities of need to host life-changing, very unique job fairs, right? Where we're able to provide the church an opportunity to open their doors in a non-judgmental setting, let people come in their doors that would normally not step foot in a church because they've been hurt, they've been lied to by the church, give them an opportunity to talk to eager job seekers and pair them up with employers that are trying to find talent. And what you've seen is a powerful program that's not only tackling the foster care crisis, but also the workforce and the talent crisis that the employers face. And it's a win-win program that we've seen success not only here in Florida, but outside of Florida as well. We do job fairs everywhere from Miami all the way to Hardin, Montana, which we will be doing a job fair this April. Very excited about. So that's kind of a 30,000 foot view of who we are as an organization and what we're trying to do. We're 100% privately funded. And we just believe in keeping families together and helping them flourish through volunteers and through God's love. But a little background on me and kind of my why. Well, I was born in Miami, but I've lived in Tallahassee for 38 years, just turned 40 this past October. And my why first started working for, ironically, the YMCA here in Tallahassee. I was very fortunate to start there at part-time, worked my way up all the way up to branch director, and then I oversaw the membership department for the entire organization. But one thing that really sticks out to me and kind of resonates with me and my why is when I was a branch director, I oversaw a scholarship program where we were able to provide financial scholarships to families in need in our organization, whether that could be swim lessons or it could be summer camp or t-ball or even gym memberships. And when you dive into that and you talk to these families that are truly in need, you see the hurt. You see the importance of nonprofit organizations and stepping in those situations in people's lives. When I was a branch director, we created a program that was called the Why Help Day, where once a month we found a family in need in the community. They could have been a member, they could not have been a member, and we helped them. We found out what their needs were. It could be something as simple as mowing the grass, or around the holidays, we provided Thanksgiving dinners. Christmas time, we provided gift cards and presents for the kids, for these families. And we were able to do that because of the support of volunteers in our YMCA that were members, that were a part of that. And one family that really sticks out to me, her name was Trisha. She had 2 daughters. And Trisha and her daughters were at every Y Help Day that we had. They were there to help the other families in the community. Well, one day, Trisha became one of those families that we needed to help because she lost her job and she was not able to sustain her Y membership or summer camp for her kids. And I remember Trisha coming into my office and engaging in that conversation. It's a very hard conversation. She had to put her pride away. We talked through it and we were able to rally around her and her family and support her and cover a membership so she and her kids could continue to come in and do exercise classes and work out. And her kids were able to go to summer camp, which gave her the opportunity, Trisha, to find employment so she could get back on her feet. Well, I remember Trisha ended up moving and they moved to Ohio. We missed them. I know my YMCA staff did. I missed her. But you move on as a business, right? Because you have other families to help. But I remember one day coming back into the office, there was a letter and it was addressed to me. And I opened the letter and I couldn't believe what I read. And I couldn't believe what was in the letter. It was from Trisha. The family was doing well. They were in Ohio, being able to support each other, and Trisha and her kids were thriving. But as I read the letter, she was just thanking her YMCA family for being there for her in her time of need. And I just couldn't believe that, one, she would remember something that we thought was so small because we do it every day. But it really stuck out to her. And so as I went to put the letter up, something fell out of it. It was a check. It was a check for $3,000 with a note on it that said, use this to help the next families in need and to pay it forward and let them know that they don't have to go through their hard times alone. And so that moment there, I kind of knew that this is what God has called me to do, whether that was through the YMCA or some type of nonprofit organization that had a mission and a vision that aligns with my heart and the calling that God's put on my life. That was a very long time ago. And so full circle back to where we are now, it's amazing that I'm able to help families in need again, like I did with the YMCA, but also help churches, help nonprofits, help job seekers, and help the employers in these communities through this Better Together organization and the program that I oversee. So that's kind of a little background on me and my why.
Man, I appreciate you for sharing that, because research is one thing, but then hearing your experience from like what you actually experienced is a completely different story. Because one thing that I've learned while me and you have been in communication over the last couple of months, you care for people. You don't just care for people because they're in front of you. You care for people because that's what you do. And you mentioned something about paying it forward. Have you ever saw that movie Pay It Forward?
I have. Yes.
Man, did you cry on that movie?
Of course I did. I just about teared up here telling my why in that story with Trisha. So yeah.
That made me think about it because when you said something about paying it forward, I was like, wow, it might seem like a small change, a small impact, but when you go out your way to help others, others see that as a big thing, as a big opportunity, and it's like, man, you mentioned that you do it every single day. So my question is, when Trisha, that's her name, Trisha, right?
Yes.
Okay, when she wrote you the letter and you read it, and then when you saw the check, before you even saw the check, the impact that you made, did you know you was making that impact, or were you just following the steps that God has planned for you?
Man, that's a good question. I think it's a little bit of both. You don't know the impact you're making and sometimes until you get a letter like that. Because for us and what we do every single day, it's just what we do, right? When we host our job fairs and we partner with churches and we bring job seekers in and pair them up with employers that are a good fit, it's just stuff that's in us, right? To us, yes, this is about the mission, but it's also a job. It's what we do. It's what we're trained to do. And so it's important as leaders and when you're in nonprofit to not get caught up in what you can do to make it better, right? It's important to be able to get caught up in the moment and celebrate the testimonies, the impact, the fruit of the labor that everything's done, right? We as a staff at the YMCA, we thought about Trisha, but then there was the next family that we needed to help. And there will always be the next family, right? But when we received that letter and I was able to share it with the staff, it just kind of reaffirms your heart and it reaffirms the mission and the task at hand. And it's something when people are in nonprofit and they're serving, because that's what we do every day. We serve people, right? And I tell my team this all the time. It's an honor. It's an honor to serve. It's an honor to be in the positions that we are because God's chose us for a time as this, despite all the bad going on in the world, right? And there's a lot of it. God's chose us to be in the positions we are to find the good and be a part of the good. And it's something that you have to own. It's something that you cannot take lightly and just go through the motions because a missed opportunity to talk to that person or serve that family or whatever the case may be can send them on a path that they may never recover from. And so when you're willing to step into these types of organizations and be a part of the mission and the vision at hand, you have to take it very seriously and know that you're here for a reason. And that's exciting, man. That's encouraging where you get up every day knowing God's put me here and he trusts me enough to be in that family's life, to be a part of their testimony, although a small part, right? God's called us to play that part, whatever it is. It's planting the seed, and then the next person's able to water it, and then someone brings the sunshine and different things like that. We all play a part, although small. It's still part of that process to get them to their testimony. And just receiving that letter, it sticks with me today, right? And this was back over 10 years ago. And multiple different jobs I've had, multiple positions, multiple responsibilities, but it still resonates with me because I knew that day that's what God's called me to do.
And it's moments like that that we often don't even think that's important, but when we get it, it's important. I give you a story. So when I started podcasting half a decade ago when I was serving in the Marine Corps, when I started podcasting, I was just doing it like I picked up my phone, put it on a small tripod. My tripod was probably the size of this microphone. Hold on, let me see if I can put in the camera. Size of the microphone and my table wasn't that high. And so my table was like really low. The microphone stand was really low. So, I mean, the tripod was really low. But I picked up my phone, placed it in the tripod with some books, so that way you can try to get eye level, but it's still kind of a little bit shorter. So I had to tilt the camera up so that way it's like at an angle. When I press record, I was trying to figure out what I want to do. I know I want to help others become the best version of themselves, and I didn't know how to. When I press record and I upload it and I started getting the hang of podcasting, people start to come to me and say, "Hey man, I listened to your last podcast and what you spoke about, I resonate with. Like it helped me a lot." First off, Travis, I'm like, "Bro, you listen to the podcast?" I said, "Man, this is crazy. I didn't even know anybody was listening." Then I recognized because I grew up in a church, and I remember going to like different church programs to the point where we was volunteering a lot. My brothers and I'm a twin. I have an older brother. My two brothers, we was in a singing group. So every time we go to different churches, we were singing, we were performing, or we were just in the light.
Mhm.
And as I got older, my apostle, I got in communication with him again, and I asked him, I was like, "Did you see what you see today in me when we was younger?" He said, "Terrell, I'm gonna tell you something." He said, "I've always seen it, but you have to see it for yourself because God has put that into your heart. And until you see it, you will recognize the purpose that you are looking for." When he said that, I'm like, God worked in mysterious ways. You don't know the ways that he's working, but when you show up, they start to discover. How was it discovering yourself while coming along this journey to know that you are making an impact, but you are making an impact because you are the one that's showing up as well?
Yeah, one thing I think about in my career is in all the different types of positions that I've had. I went from the YMCA here in Tallahassee, and sadly, we no longer have a YMCA. It folded. Breaks my heart because there's still a need here for the YMCA and the mission. But to go from that to, ironically, working for a radio station and selling radio ads to being a morning show producer of a local radio station here in Tallahassee, Freedom 93.3 at the time, to go to that to become a freight broker, going around and finding people that ship freight and being a 3PL for them, basically a travel agent to help them navigate their freight and their shipping costs, to going back to the radio station as the sales manager, to then become a property claims examiner, and then finding a position with the Florida Chamber of Commerce. I remember talking to my parents about it one day, and I'm like, if you look at my resume, I am all over the map, right? I look like a smorgasbord of different, in it. I told my mom, I said, this looks like if someone's just seeing this resume, it looks like someone that doesn't have direction, that hasn't found their purpose yet, that's just trying to throw things at the wall to see what sticks, right? But little did I know that everything that I had done on that resume, all the experience, was the reason why I was recruited and brought on to the Florida Chamber of Commerce, because I was selling memberships and selling sponsorships to people for an insurance summit, where my experience as a property claims examiner for an insurance company was able to provide me insight and information to carry a conversation with someone in that industry. I was able to sell sponsorships for our Transportation Growth and Infrastructure Summit, where as a freight broker dealing with truckers and people in the logistics and the warehouse, I was able to engage in conversations with them and know what they were talking about to show them that this particular summit would be a huge benefit to them. All these little things, all the connections that I made on a local radio station here in Tallahassee was able to get me a lot of relationships that assisted me for recommendations and different things like that to get me to the Florida Chamber. And ironically, our Future of Florida Forum, which is the largest conference that the chamber does every year, I sold an organization a sponsorship for that event. That organization was Better Together. I'd never heard of Better Together before, but I prospected them. I found out their mission, and we engaged in a conversation because they wanted to be there to help get their awareness out about their program. And through those conversations, I found out about their mission, about their vision, about what they're doing. Look where I am now. I am now overseeing the Better Jobs program, where I'm still able to help a lot of those employers that I met, that I connected with the Florida Chamber, and then be able to help families in need in the communities that we serve, like I used to do with the YMCA. So it brought it all together. So somebody that didn't look like he didn't have direction or purpose, God knew. And God brought it one full circle back to where we are today. And now I understand it and I get it. Why I had that career, or why I took that job, and I learned that and put it on that resume, because now it's led me to where I am today. And I know that's why God has a purpose in everything that he does. And sometimes we just have to do our best in just getting out of his way and letting him lead.
And I appreciate you for sharing that, because what I recently started to say, and it started to make a lot of sense of why I was saying that, is that whenever you get into business, it's kind of like you're doing putting pieces of puzzle together. And the first puzzle that I put together was what I tried to put together was 1,000 piece puzzle. I saw somebody that I did a podcast with. Her and her boyfriend was doing a puzzle together. I was like, huh, that's interesting. Like, what encouraged you to do? I reached out to her. What encouraged you to do that? She was like, well, it just made her and her boyfriend closer. I was like, okay. At the time, I was single. I wasn't married. And I was like, all right, let me go buy this puzzle. I go buy this puzzle. And it was 1,000 pieces. I messed up at 1,000 pieces because it was a lot of pieces to put together. So I didn't even touch it. Like, it was in a corner. It was just sitting there. It was collecting dust. My brother, who I played football with, came over one time and he saw the puzzle. He was like, man, why you ain't do the puzzle? I said, bro, because it's 1,000 pieces. I wasn't expecting it. It was 1,000 pieces. He said, man, let's do it. Okay. Cleared the table and we start putting the pieces together. Every piece of the puzzle that we was putting together, we didn't finish it. We got some, like maybe 100 pieces, give or take 100 pieces. As we was finding the pieces, they go into the right place. We're finding the pieces and it's connecting the picture. We're looking at it, putting it together. And in business, you have to find the piece to put together, because you have to learn marketing, you have to learn sales, you have to learn communication, you have to learn team development, you have to learn finances, you have to learn all the departments that goes into business. In addition to that, it takes time to find the right piece. It takes time to find the right piece that connects in the right place. As you are putting that time in, you're learning what you are doing. So the question I want to ask you, as you started to put time in everything that you was doing, and you're here in the position with Better Together, when did it start to make sense? Like, wait, hold on, I've been doing this my whole entire life, but this is why I've been preparing for it.
I think a lot of that happened before I even came on with Better Together. It really started when I was with the Florida Chamber and doing that mission and working on the foundation side and helping the initiatives about childhood poverty and early learning and stuff like that, right? When I was back there selling that and talking to employers around this beautiful state that we live in about those initiatives, it really started to click with me that, okay, this is starting to sound a lot like the YMCA and what I used to do there. And it was a way that God was able for me to fulfill and complete some of the things that I started at the Y, but I wasn't able to finish. Right. And so I started to understand it, and it started, another piece of the puzzle was put into place. And then I met Better Together and I sold them the sponsorship, and I was able to engage with them in conversations. And then those conversations led to, we're creating a certain position that we feel would be perfect for you. And it's not created yet, but when it is, we would love for you to consider it and pray about it. And that's when I truly knew, okay, this is all God, right? Because I couldn't have done this, right? Certain things had to happen throughout this path to make everything align, for these introductions and these connections to be made, and the timing of everything had to happen. And so I knew then that through all of this, he had a plan, because I didn't. My plan at the time was just to survive, just like the rest of us, right? Make it to the next day. Handle what you have in front of you today, and then tomorrow will have its own concerns, and you deal with it then. Well, that's not God. He's thinking way ahead, and he's planning things. But one thing I've learned through this is that it takes a lot of people in your story to be obedient, because all it took was for one person to not, that could have shifted this path for me. And it's the same with people that we serve. It's the same people that we come in contact with. And so I always tell people, I'm like, if something is stirring in your heart, to go talk to that person and say, you know what? I just want you to know you're loved and you're cared for. Like, that could be the difference between life and death for that person. Or someone, you feel something in your heart to cover lunch for somebody that's sitting by themselves, right? Those small moments, although we think they're small, of being obedient could change somebody's life. But then I always ask the question, what about all those times that we had something in our spirit, but we didn't do it? What then happened in that person's path? Someone else is going to have to step up because we messed up, right? And so that could delay their testimony, or that could delay whatever success might be coming down the road. And so I always challenge people, when you're thinking about stuff like that and you're out and about and you feel something in your heart, something stirring, do it, because you never know, just that small thing, what impact it can make in somebody's life.
And I remember us talking about that and how you just brought it back up, and how you have to be obedient behind everything that you're doing, because you never know where the obedience is going to lead to. I want to go off script right quick. Excuse me. I want to go off script right quick. So let's just say, Travis, I come to you and say, hey, Travis, I want to get into Better Together, or I want to start an organization like Better Together, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no experience. And I see you doing what you're doing. What are 3 tips that you can give for someone that's new, who want to make the same impact that you are making?
Ooh, 3 tips. Well, first, I think you need to make sure it's God leading that. There's a lot of opportunities out there. And if it's something that you truly feel in your heart, go for it. A great way, if you're thinking about nonprofit, one, it's a totally different beast than anything else, because you deal in messy situations every single day, right? You deal with families that are messy, and there's a lot that comes with that. Too much is given, much is required, and there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of situations where you have to deal in messy situations. So there's an emotional piece to this. It's very hard to not bring it home with you. It's very hard not to work every hour of the day because you want to help everybody. So the number one thing, and the tip I would suggest for people to know and write it down, is that you cannot help everybody, and you cannot do it alone. But your heart is going to sure as heck try to make you try to. You've got to have volunteers. You got to have support around you. So that's first. 2, find ways that you can volunteer. That way you can find what that niche is, or what that interest, what that passion is for you and the people that you want to serve. Some it's veterans. Some it's prison ministry, second chance initiatives, right? Which is true to my heart. I know it's true to your heart. Um, the veteran side also, Terrell, thank you for your service. Very
Thank you for your
appreciate your
support.
service for our country, which is true to my heart as well. We help a lot of veterans. And so there's a lot of wonderful causes out there. And so volunteer, see what sticks, see what makes sense. And if it's something that's in your heart where you would possibly want to not just volunteer, but maybe make this a career, you can be very successful in nonprofit, right? There's a lot of successful nonprofits that are making a difference, but make sure you're aligned with the right one. And if you're able to volunteer and you can be a part of that, you stick out, it's a very good chance there's probably going to be an opening. If it's a thriving nonprofit organization, there could be an opening. We have openings with Better Together all the time because of how quickly we're growing. And ironically, a good percentage of the people that now work for us started as volunteers. They just believe in the mission because they went through the foster care system when they were younger. And they want to volunteer because they don't want kids to go through that because they've done it and they know what it can cause, right? And so they volunteer, and then they truly, they believe in this, they're bought into it, they understand it. There's a position that opens up, God stirs something in their heart, and now they're on the team. And so there's plenty of ways that you can be involved in that. You just got to make sure it's the right cause because there's so many amazing causes out there, and you can't help them all, right? Time is money. It's the most valuable thing we have. And so when you're doing that, just being selective in the organizations that you choose to support.
That was good. That was good to recap. One, you cannot help everybody. Two, find ways you can volunteer. Number three, make sure you're online.
Mhm.
I got all three.
That's it.
Okay, man, that was powerful because especially the first one, you cannot help everybody. Although, like you want to have the desire to help everyone. I learned this when I was learning about like the business model canvas and business. Shout out to Action Zone. That was like, well, who's your customer? That's at the time I was doing social media. I was like, everybody's my customer. If you're a business owner and you have a business, you're my customer. And I was like, well, I understand where you are coming from. However, if you're trying to serve everybody, you're serving no one.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. I'm like, well, how do you find a person to serve? And over the last couple of years, I've been fine tuning more about who to serve and how to serve more often. And I like how that was the first one. You cannot help everybody.
That's it. There's a lot of wonderful nonprofit organizations that are successful and growing because they have been successful in finding their niche. Because it's more important for you to be great at serving a certain community than being average or good at trying to serve everybody. And so once you're able to find that niche and serve them well, that's how you're going to define success and be successful long term.
You good at what you do, Travis. You good at what you do. Earlier, you mentioned how everybody that you came encounter with, they had to be obedient.
Yeah.
And you didn't say the word, but what I'm assuming is that is a form of mentorship. People who are obedient in something that they're doing, and then when you come encounter with them, it's like, well, they have to teach you the way. When you got started with everything that you are doing, how important is mentorship to help you learn, develop, and identify the skill that you need to have?
Yeah. I think in everything that you do, people that you come in contact with, there's opportunities to learn and grow, right? I was on a meeting not too long ago, and we were talking about leadership and leadership styles. And I serve first, right? I serve my team. That's a leader that I am. I serve. And I think it's important to start there because if you're able to serve, that's how trust is earned, right? Trust is earned, it's not given. But I piqued a lot of people's ears when I said, I've been very blessed in my leadership style because I feel where I am as a leader comes from, of course, leaders that you've had right? And so I started with, I've been blessed to have a lot of good leaders that I have been under that have led. And then I said, but I've also been blessed and I'm thankful because I've had a lot of bad leaders and it piqued a lot of people's interest. And when I got to thinking about it, I'm like, honestly, I think I learned more from the bad leaders that I've had than the good because you learn what not to do. You learn how it made you feel, right? A lot of the leaders that are successful, they're doing a lot of the same things, right? But the ones that really stick out are the bad ones because you know how something was done and you're like, that's not right. So you make note of those. And then if you serve and that's how you lead, a lot of the rest is just going to come natural. But you make a mention about being obedient. And I'd love to go back to that a minute because I have an example. And when I became a freight broker, I was prospected, I was recruited through LinkedIn. So I went into it. And I'm like you, I want to be challenged. So I went into this possible position of being a freight broker, basically selling freight, knowing nothing about it, right? Because I just want to be challenged. I'm like, that sounds interesting. I'd love to know about dry vans and trailers and reefer vans and the capacity and density of the LTL shipments and what all that is, right? So I went into it really not knowing much about it. And when I went into the interview, I didn't really study on it either, just because I wanted to learn. I'm like, if I get this job, wonderful. But if I don't, I'm going to come out knowing a lot about it, right? And based on the industry and stuff like that. Well, in this particular position, the franchise owner, who is a dear friend of mine and one of those amazing leaders that I learned a lot from, not bad he's a Gator fan. I'm a Seminole, as you know, but a dear friend to me, a brother to me. We still stay in contact. But he had someone that he contracted out to do an assessment on possible candidates. And based on how you did this assessment and where you scored, he would give his recommendation on if they should hire that person or not. And because you paid this contractor, you kind of take those recommendations pretty seriously. Well, I didn't pass the assessment. And the contractor that this franchise owner used recommended that I not be hired. But because this leader prayed about it and something stirred something in him, he went and hired me. And despite that recommendation, he was obedient to what God's called in his heart because he's a believer. And he took a chance on this short country accent guy from Tallahassee to go sell freight for his company. And because he did that, gave me that opportunity, it set the path to where I am. But then the question becomes, what if he did it? Right? What would my story look like? I'm so thankful that I don't know that. And I didn't have to go down that road because he was obedient to what God put in his heart. So I just want to share that example because of how important being obedient can be to somebody's life.
And through Better Together, every day y'all show up, y'all are obedient because every day y'all doing God's mission and y'all are able to see the impact. Like that's it based on me doing the research on you and doing like in-depth research on you. I'm able to see it from outside being in, but you're able to see it being inside of the organization, and that's definitely a powerful story that you share with me. I want to go back and you mentioned something about leadership. You just gave a leadership masterclass that quick. When I was in the Marine Corps, every rank that you go through, you learn something about leadership.
Mhm.
And I got to E4, and when I got to E3, it was a leadership course that I had to attend to. And during that time, as we was attending the leadership course, we was literally learning how to be leaders, how to communicate. Although you're moving up, you still have to remember there's somebody behind you.
Yeah.
In boot camp, when we was hiking, if we was hiking and the line would start to separate, The drill instructors, the people who are over us, they'll say, reach back and touch somebody. That means literally reach back and close the gap. Every time the gap opens, they say it again, reach back and touch somebody. Close the gap. And with Better Together, y'all are closing the gap because y'all are there every single day. My question is, how were you able to see the gap that you were closing?
Well, I think here in the state, we've seen a decrease, in cases and people going into the foster care system. We've seen success, like I mentioned, over 9,000 families served, 96% success rate. But I truly feel how you know the difference being made, the impact, closing that gap, like you mentioned, is when you see testimonies at our job fairs or through our Better Family side where we were able to step in temporary situations and find those kids a safe family to go to because that volunteer family said yes, right? They said, yes, use us. We're here, right? And we're able to be able to provide that support to the parents and be able to reunify that family and to see them thriving now, to see the mom and dad working and the kids still in that home. But really cool to see that they still have a relationship with the host family, or the host family is now a part of that. And I'll give you an example on the Better Job side. We have, and we've talked about this story. So every April, Better Together, we have something called Nationwide Days of Second Chances, where they are second chance job fairs throughout not only the state of Florida, but outside of Florida as well. As you know, April is Second Chance Month. It's a national promoted, kind of month and initiative, and we're 100% behind it because we believe in second chances. And a lot of the families, a lot of the people that we work with, they have a background. 1 in 3 adults now in the United States has some type of background, right? So we're going to be engaging in these conversations. And frankly, to be honest with you, we could probably all have a background. We just didn't get caught, right? So that's the reality of the situation that we're in. But I remember a job fair that we had in Fort Myers last year as part of Nationwide Days of Second Chances. And it was at Riverside Church there in Fort Myers, Florida. They said yes to being a part of our Better Jobs program, partnering with us to host this life-changing event. And we brought in over 300 job seekers. Some had a background, some didn't, but everybody knew coming in that door that if they did have a background, they weren't going to be judged. They were going to be shown love. They were going to be seen. They were going to be heard. And they were going to be able to talk to employers that would give them an opportunity, right? I drove down. I'm here in Tallahassee. It's about a 7-hour drive to drive down to Fort Myers, but I was honored to do it. And I'm so thankful that I did, because when I was down there, I was introduced to a job seeker named Victor. He has a background, but I remember what stuck out to me about Victor was he was going to every single employer table. He had a 6-month-old baby boy next to him. His baby boy's name is Lyric. And he shook every employer's hand, looked him in the eye, and said, "My name's Victor. I have a background. Here's what I did. I served my time. I own that, but it doesn't define me. And I know my future is bright ahead, and I'm looking forward to getting there because of this 6-month-old baby boy that I have. I want to show him the man I can be for him and be a dad." And it really stuck out to me. So I pulled him aside and I talked to him, and I just let him talk, and I just listened, because he had been locked up for a long time. And there's a lot of things that he needed to say, a lot of frustrations about being judged when he came out, limited opportunities, all the barriers, all of it. I just let him talk, and I just heard him. Well, through that conversation and through that introduction, I was able to introduce him to some of our employer partners that we work with for our job fairs. They see success, they believe in the impact, they understand the program that is truly making a difference, and they're filling talent needs on their end too. So it's a win-win on both sides. But I was able to introduce him to one of our employers down in Southwest Florida. That's a second chance employer. All American Barricades, very amazing company. They gave him a chance. They gave him an interview. They understood his background, and they hired him as a flagger. The guys that you see on the roads that are holding the flags up that says stop, go, and they're communicating with the other guy down there to hold the traffic and put out the cones, that was Victor. That was his first job. But he stood out. He showed up every day. He earned their trust, which takes time. But through that, because of his work ethic and because he wanted to provide for his family and prove to his family that he can do it and he can turn this around, he became a crew lead where he had his own truck. When I say his own truck, he had a brand new F-150 truck, nicer than anything I got. Very proud of him. But he was a leader. He was a supervisor in about a 4 or 5 month span doing that. What a testimony he has. But one thing that's really cool now is God's put it in his heart to open his own business. So now he has a car detailing company down in Fort Myers, Florida, where as he continues to grow, it gives him an opportunity to hire people that have a background so he can pay it forward and be a part of their testimonies. And see, all of these moving pieces had to come into place for Victor, right? He had to say yes to attending the job fair. Riverside Church had to say yes to being a part of the program. Better Together had to say yes to bringing this program to Fort Myers and explaining it. All these different things. All American Barricades had to say yes to being a part of the program and giving Victor the chance. I had to say yes to being at that job fair and meeting him and connecting him and vouching for him, right? And putting my credibility and the organization's credibility on the line. But I believed in him, and we all said yes to it. And because of that, Victor now has a testimony that's going to be shaping other people's, because he's now able to hire and bring people on. And so that's just a small part of what Better Together is about. As you know, this is so much bigger than any one of us, right? This is so much bigger than Better Together. It's so much bigger than this podcast. It's so much bigger than Victor. This is truly about changing people's lives and letting them know that there's people here that care, because there's so much bad in the world. We hear it all day, every day. But for that day, for Victor, he saw the good. And because he saw the good, his life is changed forever. But more importantly than Victor, his baby boy, Lyric, his life is changed forever. And so now this is generational, right? Planting the seed for generations to come. And it's just an honor to be a part of it. As you can see, very passionate about what we do. I'm very passionate about the mission and the cause. There's a lot of ways for people to help, to get plugged in, to get involved. But it's just an honor to be on this podcast and be able to talk about the good things that are going on in our communities.
And I definitely agree. We are coming up on time, but before we go to the last segment, I wanna let me show. Yeah, you can see me. So I don't have it physically. However, I'm gonna do like a symbol, and if you identify the symbol, I want you to explain what that symbol is. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay. You can see my hand?
Yes.
Ringing the bell, ringing the bell, ringing the bell. What is
Yep.
that?
That's the opportunity bell. That's the first thing that comes in mind. It's a very unique moment at our job fairs. We celebrate opportunities given. We are relationship based. We are not transactional. And so when you ring in that opportunity bell, we have it at every job fair. It's an opportunity for that job seeker to go ring that bell and celebrate. It could be a job offer that's given. It could be a scheduled interview. It could be an interview conducted, or it could be somebody came in and said, you know what, God, I'm giving you one last chance, right? And when they came in the door, no one's going to talk to me. Everyone's going to judge me. And when they leave, they feel hope and they feel encouraged because that didn't happen, right? And people did see them and they let them talk and they provided them opportunities. So whatever that moment is to ring that bell, we celebrate it. It's a very powerful moment. It's contagious. You've seen it. You were at one of our job fairs in Tampa that had over 462 job seekers at it, over 30 employers, and lots of opportunities given. I know that bell was ringing all day, and it's just a contagious moment that really sends energy throughout the event, not only for the job seeker, but for the employer, because the employer is part of that opportunity as well.
Man, that was powerful. That was powerful. When I saw that, I was like, "Ooh, I gotta do it. I gotta do it." And when I saw that, I was like, "It's bigger than just today. The impact, like you mentioned earlier, the impact goes beyond generations than the people that's in the room, and everyone is being impacted by better together obedience." So we have one last segment, and it's called "Best for Last." It's when I ask you four questions and you answer it underneath 30 seconds.
Ooh, okay.
You ready?
We'll see how it goes. I'll
Yes,
do my
sir.
best.
Hey, I think you're doing good so far. So, question number one, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for the people that played a part and a role in my story and where I am today. I've given a few examples of that in this conversation. I'm very grateful for them saying yes, being obedient, because if they didn't, I don't know where I'd be today.
That's powerful. Question number two, do you have any regrets?
Yes, where do you begin? I believe in celebrating failure. And because if you're not failing, you become complacent and you're not growing. One thing that I do regret, I wouldn't necessarily maybe say regret, but something that I learned from was chasing the money rather than pursuing the mission. And that's something that's God's really worked on me for. I took a job up in North Carolina working for a for profit gym, making a lot of money as a membership sales guy. But I was the worst, I was the most miserable I've ever been in my life. And it brought me back to Tallahassee, back to where my family is, which started the path working for the YMCA and all of that. So I wouldn't say it's a regret, but it's definitely a learning moment for me.
Behind every failure, there's every lesson. Behind every failure, there's a lesson.
That's it.
Question number three, what has been your biggest takeaway from working at Better Together?
Biggest takeaway is that there are so many people that have a heart for helping. And there is a people that want to volunteer. There's people that want to help, that want to be a part of the organization in some capacity. You just have to ask. You have to be direct, find them a way to help, and make the ask. And I think we'll all be surprised in how passionate and how caring people are, the human population is. Don't watch the news because the news tells you everybody hates everybody. And that's not the case. Majority of people truly care and they want to help. You just got to find a way for them to help.
That was from all your experience. God, that was a good response. That was a good response right there. Then last question, what does failure is knowledge mean to you?
Failure is knowledge. I think you celebrate failure. I think you learn more from failure than you do success. And we're always failing. We're always challenging our team in this organization to fail because it means you're trying things. You're thinking outside the box. And so what you learn from that helps you navigate and pivot and make, correct things and shift focus. We have a model in place for better jobs and better families, and it's not perfect by any means, but it's proven. And it's because we've failed a lot and we continue to fail and try things that don't work and say, well, that didn't work. Let's try this. Let's see if this will work. Right. And so it's important to constantly fail and celebrate that. Learn from it. Don't make that same failure again. Learn from it. But that's where the knowledge is. You learn more from that than you do the success.
That was powerful, man. Travis, this has been great. How can people find you? How can they learn more about Better Together? How can they connect with you?
You can find us online. Just Google Better Together. BetterTogetherUS.org is our website. You can find me on LinkedIn. You'll see me on there posting about our job fairs and our program. Happy to discuss the program more, how to get you guys plugged in. But I always start the conversation with how can I help? How can we help you? Right? Because I believe that's where it starts. This is a relationship. This isn't a one-way street. So if you have an organization that you're looking to do, you know who we are. How can we help you get your message out? And then from there, we can find that alignment where we can help each other.
Wow. Okay. So what I recently started doing, before we log out, before we stop recording, I say like what is it called a ending quote. But rather than the quote being from somebody else, this quote is specifically from you. So I go first. The quote that I'm going to talk about today is learn the importance of failure and identify that you're learning something rather than failing at a new skill.
That's good. Mine's going to be shorter and more direct than that. I remember my last day at the Florida Chamber. I had a board in my office, and as I cleaned up and I walked out for the final time, I wrote 3 words. And it's resonated with me my entire life, my family. It resonates with my team. It resonated with that team because I remember them texting me and saying, man, thank you for leaving that message. And it's just 3 simple words, but they're very powerful. And I say this all the time. It's let God lead.
That's wow. This conversation has been led by God. Travis, I appreciate it. Travis, man, thank you again for coming on to the Phase Knowledge Podcast. What was your biggest takeaway while being on the podcast?
Man, honestly, thank you, Terrell. My biggest takeaway is probably just being able to engage in this conversation. Not really like an interview, but more of two friends having a conversation about the mission, things that are going on, and just getting the message out. Is part of the biggest issues that nonprofits face is the challenge of sharing their message. Because once we're able to share it, people want to get involved. So thank you for providing that platform to talk about my background and Better Together's mission and what we're trying to do to help.
Absolutely. And then last question for someone that's hesitant to come on the Phase Knowledge Podcast, what is one piece of advice that you get them to prepare for it?
Be yourself and do it. You make it very easy with the questions and the engagement, the emails that lead you up to the podcast. Like I said, I've been on radio before. I've done speaking engagements. This is my first podcast, but it's more of a conversation, and it's a great way for you to get your vision out there, your mission out there to the masses. And I believe it's truly going to spark an interest in a lot of people to get them involved in the cause.